Morning. Morning, folks. How are we all this morning? Karen, Stephen, Stuart, Scott, Robert. Nightmare. It's moving faster than my screen can. Morning, Lenny, Alan, Stuart, Lorraine, Trisha, James, Jim. Getting there, rising nicely. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Kirsty. Hi, Jacqueline. Ian, Ewan. Morning, BJ. Morning, Marlon. Susie. Alex. Right, that's us. We're up over the 100 mark. Morning, John. So it's Indytruck Davy out the truck and at home in his office here in North Lanarkshire, Salisbury, where it is a lovely morning actually, 19 degrees, very warm, not bad at all. So that's your weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. You want to know what the weather's like where you are? Look out your own bloody window. Alright, so let's get this broadcast underway. This is the news review for the 23rd of the 6th, 2022, better known to you and me as yesterday. Right, Thursday started with a mixed bag in the rags. The English rags sold in Scotland go on traces of polio found in London water supply. So polio is back, but that's what happens when your privatised water companies in England pump raw sewage into the water course. You know, there'll be all sorts of diseases making new appearances. If they can't regulate the water companies and keep the water clean, then disease is what follows. Right, in the Scottish publications there's a mix of headlines. The Hootsman, the Scotsman, it claims that the SNP failed to spend 41 million of cost of living relief money. The Herald claims that vulnerable people are treated like lepers after COVID rules end. According to the Herald, vulnerable people are suffering from abuse. Well, I can't say I've seen it in my local towns myself, you know. In fact, there's a lot of people, including Sarah, who still wear face masks, and sometimes they get a funny look, but nobody seems to say anything to them, you know. So there you go. The National says Europeans send message of hope and support to Scots dragged out of Europe against their will. Celebrations take place to celebrate traditional links with the 27 in Scotland across the EU last night. Alright, that was very nice of them. Right, moving on. Thursday started with two by-elections in England, both brought about by Tory perverts and paedophiles. The Wakefield by-election comes about because Tory MP Imran Ahmed Khan is convicted of paedophilia. He sexually abused a 15-year-old boy. And the Tiverton and Horton by-election, it came about as a Tory MP, Neil Parish, watched porn in the Commons chamber in full view of female colleagues. But that's important that one comes out now, because when we get to First Minister's questions, it's quite funny. Right, moving on. Thursday, and day 2 of the network rail strike action gets underway. The RMT General Secretary tells the press that the management has escalated the situation by issuing a statutory redundancy notice for 2,700 rail workers. Mr Lynch said he met rail bosses on Wednesday night for pay negotiations, but was met with the notice and no pay negotiations. So he goes there to talk about pay negotiations, and he gets handed a letter telling them that 2,700 of their members are about to get the boot. Because let's face it, that's what Davy's been saying when we talk about public sector pay, right? If the teachers want 10%, they better have a look at each other and see who's losing their jobs. If the nurses want 10%, and they deserve it, teachers, nurses, police, they all deserve 10%. But they better have a look. And that becomes relevant further into the report. Because if they're all wanting 10%, that means slicing 10% out of the workforce. It's going to increase their workloads. It's going to deteriorate their terms and conditions. They deserve these rises. Let's no mess about here. The public sector have had pay freezes for years or minimum pay rises for years, keeping pace with inflation, or just under pace with inflation. So, you know, the public sector workers, they do need pay rises, but they better have a look at each other if they're wanting 10%, because the budget, especially in Scotland, doesn't stretch that far. All right, and so Mick Lynch, the darling of the press, not. He doesn't half give him a wee punch, doesn't he? He goes to negotiate on rail and on the pay situation for his workers, and gets dealt 2,700 were getting their tickets. Right, moving on Thursday, and the SNP bad story in the press, once again, is sexual harassment story. SNP MP Patrick Grady he had propositioned a teenage staffer. The SNP Westminster Group initially backed Mr Grady, and according to the person making the complaint, his complaint was handled badly. Mr Blackford and the First Minister have apologised to the staffer and have offered to meet with whoever it is, but the staffer says he isn't happy, and that the apology just isn't good enough. The press are making hay with this one. Well, we'll get a lot more of that in First Minister's questions, won't we? And believe me, First Minister's questions won't be funny today, folks. Well, because with First Minister's questions, when it is a serious subject like this, give them their due. Unlike the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers,